In today's clip, I'm going to talk about what percentage of one's net worth should be tied up in one's primary residence. Hey, XenPuck here. Another day not working for anybody but me. So I know I've already made a clip about primary residences, but that was in terms of whether one should count primary residences as an investment at all. Now, since I generally do count it, because I always assume that I can pick up and leave and live a fairly nomadic lifestyle anywhere in the world if I really wanted to, thus turning my primary residence into an income-producing asset. After all, if I'm willing to live somewhere, I'm pretty sure most people would be okay with living in a house that I'm willing to live in myself, right? Still, since I'm on the let's count primary residence as part of the net worth train, I'm super curious as to what is generally accepted as the rules in terms of how much or how big of a percentage this primary residence usually occupies in one's own net worth calculations, right? Thank the Lord that I live in an age of information, so I can just go look up the very top Google results to these questions, right? So, let's see what I found out in terms of what it actually is, what the internet thinks it should be, and what I think it should be. Let's see if there's any differences. Okay. Number one. So if I just search the term primary residence as percentage of net worth actual data, the top result, a white paper apparently, shows that on average, the primary residence accounted for 62% of homeowners' total assets. Yeah, to me that sounds about right. It confirms my suspicion that for most people, the house they live in really is the majority of their net worth, right? After all, this is why normal people tend to use things like reverse mortgages or secondary mortgages to finance even more and more stuff, to fill the void in their lives, no? I mean, maybe I'm being a little harsh, and I digress. My point is, I don't think this statistic is that surprising, right? In fact, the mere fact that most people's net worth is tied up around their homes and houses is precisely why there's so much conversation about how hard it is for one aggrieved group or another, whether due to race or generation, to actually get to the home ownership stage, isn't it? To not even own a home is, by all normal measures, a real impediment to increasing one's net worth. So I do agree with this 62% number as to what is reality, but I don't like it, not one bit. Now, point number two. Now, if you search a slightly different term, such as simply primary residence as percentage of net worth, okay, just skip the actual data part. The top result shows a totally different number, okay? Here's a quote that I saw on the very top Google results, right? It said, some sources suggest allocating somewhere between 25 to 40% of your net worth to real estate, including your home. What's going on here? This is much lower than the 60-something percent that is actual reality. Okay, but why a lower number? This much lower number. I mean, 25 to 40%. At the 25%, it's less than half of what reality is, right? Now, top Google result actually helps by spelling out quite readily what they think is the reason, right? It says, well, at this type of percentage, you have more flexibility to pursue wealth with other methods. And I think that's actually quite fair as well, right? If you have the majority of your wealth sitting in a relatively illiquid asset class such as real estate, there's just really not much room to maneuver, right? You can get a HELOC and things like that, but that still charges you interest rate, right? So your comparison of like how well you think that cash could generate in terms of returns will need to be much higher if you're already paying interest on that money. Of course, we're comparing real estate to other more liquid and perhaps more volatile asset classes, such as stock market, or if you want to, crypto. Real estate may just seem kind of conservative and boring, right? I mean, I could point to historical research that shows real estate may be boring, but it also has been consistently the wealth builder for a very large percentage of what is generally considered wealthy people, like millionaires and above, right? But hey, these days it's got competition, so it doesn't seem like the sexiest of asset classes. Yet, remember, this ideal internet answer still says 25 to 40%. Why? I think the answer is simple, right? Because balance is a good thing to have, right? 25 to 40% is significant, but a minority percentage, right? That implies that a person still are in the housing market already, right? The difference is that you're just not putting, everything in that one housing basket, right? All your eggs in one basket. Because, like, let's say if there's another crash going on, if your primary residence is more than half, like 60-70% of your net worth, your entire lifetime of wealth accumulation could just go down the drain, like very, very quickly, right? So I think having balance means that you are having some sort of hedge amongst asset classes, right? So I generally have no problem with this kind of percentage allocation in terms of if the audience is a regular consumer, right? So for both balancing and liquidity reasons. And yet, again, I still don't think it goes far enough, right? Point number 3. Now, for somebody who actually wants to get to financial independence, retire early, what would I actually advocate? Well, because I'm a cynic and a contrarian, if the internet suggests, a proper percentage is somewhere between 25 to 40%, then to me, their floor is my ceiling, right? 25% tops, actually. That's actually how I live my own life. I am most comfortable with the primary residence somewhere around 20 to 25% mark, right? Like, ideally, that's the ceiling. And really, this is similar to, my preferred percentage on savings rate, right? But in the opposite direction. For savings rate, I always say it should be at least 50%, but really as high as you possibly can make it, right? For percentage of net worth tied up in primary residence, I would say at most 25%, but ideally as low of a percentage as possible. Now, personally, I have even more real estate besides the primary residence because I like some parts of my investment to be in a nice conservative asset class, right? Over things such as crypto, which I consider simply untested, right? I guess that shows my age right there, right? I get it. Most people want to live in a nice place, but just remember that most people get used to any type of luxury after 6 months, tops, right? Maybe you'll get joy out of showing off to new friends, like when it comes to your fancy new house, like your McMansions and that kind of thing. But honestly, those are few and far between instances, right? And I wouldn't bet on it. Like, you shouldn't derive your happiness from the reaction of others, right? So instead, concentrate on lowering the percentage that one devotes to primary residences, because what that does is that implies that you have additional capital to be allocated to other more directly capital producing ventures or asset classes, right? Personally, I want my money to be making money explicitly, right? Rather than simply accruing value that I won't see for at least 5 years to a decade or even longer time frame, especially when it comes to real estate, right? Most people suggest that if you want to buy real estate, you got to plan on, living there for at least a decade. Anyway, these days we have all the new toys one can dream of in terms of how to invest, right? I've seen small-scale grassroots type of REITs and ways to buy fractional shares in art or even like crowd-funded venture capital. And these are just methods to participate that didn't exist like 5 to 10 years ago, right? Not even brand new asset classes like crypto, right? So yeah, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think a primary residence is definitely important to have, and most people should have one unless you are the real, like, grew up as a nomad all your life type of person. And it can be an investment. But the difference is just don't make it your only investment, okay? Diversify in every class and diversify within each class too, if possible, right? And then you'll be at your own leisure like me in no time, right? Do you agree, disagree? Did I forget something? Please let me know in the comments below, and share, subscribe, like, and all that twinizzle. Cheers.